rally, and I really appreciate that it was called International Working Women's Day, right? And I'm here mainly in solidarity with the activists in China. We just heard that last night, Chinese time, a bunch of Chinese feminists from Guangzhou and Beijing who are organizing for the International Women's Day March in China their homes were raided by the cops and arrested. And so some of us have these posters up here, and these were the ones that they wanted to march around with that the Chinese government did not want them to be seen with. All right, and these are not really radical messages. They're just saying, no sexual violence, respect women's rights, no slut shaming, and that was something the Chinese government could not tolerate. And it's really interesting to think about where these raids took place. They took place in Guangzhou. They took place in China, a place where we think of as the factory of the world. Right? And why does the factory of the world want to stop the language of anti-patriarchal resistance? Because for a lot of people in the third world and a lot of women of color, patriarchy is a form of subjugating labor. It's a form of getting working women to work for really cheap wages. And we know that it's a form of division of labor, right? Because sexual violence, making women submissive, and this whole idea of by a certain age you have to get married, and if you're not married by then you're not worth shit, and so you get to be paid shittier wages. So all that stuff is happening in the factory of the world, and that's why they don't want women activists holding up these signs, right? And what's so interesting about China, it makes me think about the film Born in Flames. I don't know how many people here have seen it. Right? Born in Flames is a film, I don't know, from the 80s or 90s. It's made by black women about a post-revolutionary society that's run by white men, that's run by cis, sexist men. And all these women who fought for the revolution, they no longer had a place in this post-revolutionary world. They would walk down the streets and be harassed, and they're like, wait, we fought for this shit, and this is what we get? And that's the question that I think a lot of Chinese feminists are asking. The Chinese Revolution was a huge moment in history. It affected the world. There was a lot of solidarity between the Panthers here, between a lot of countries in the third world with the Chinese Revolution. But what do we have right now? We have a really capitalist state in China. And they're advocating this thing called the China Dream, right? This is the new language going on in China right now. And it's modeled after, not surprisingly, the American dream. This idea of you have to pull yourselves up by your bootstraps, push down everyone from your family, everyone in your community, subjugate native people, exploit workers. This is the language that's being used in China right now. So, this is an important lesson for us here as activists, as people who want to fight for a different world. Let's not forget women's rights, queer rights, trans folks, people with disabilities. Let's make real this vision of from each according to ability to each according to need. Let's not let that be taken up by state power and, let our lives be made use of and then be thrown under the bus for that. So, yeah, thank you. Hold up these posters. Yeah.